You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by UpNorthNews. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of UpNorthNews, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. It is 7:06. It is nice to have you here up north on this Monday morning, July 28th, 2025. Nice to be back home here in beautiful Chippewa Falls. Parker Olson down in Madison in Studio A2 producing this fine broadcast. Dr. Kristen Lyerly joins us. Up North News reporter Salina Heller is here. And also back at her own home studio, meteorologist Brittany Merlot, back from camping at EAA Air Venture in Oshkosh. Brittany, how was the rest of Air Venture and the camping in the heat and the humidity and the rain and all those other things you love so much? You go back every year.
Yeah, I know, right? It was really, really tiring actually by the end of it with it all. The storm, the first one on Wednesday, knocked my tent down pretty much.
I'm sorry, it knocked your tent down?
It did. It did. So Wednesday, the windstorm got me. Thursday, the rain was so heavy. A bunch of tents and areas were flooded throughout the campgrounds, and thankfully, mine stayed dry. So it can't handle the wind, but it can handle the heavy rain. So I learned a lot. And then me, personally, after so long in the heat, and I was trying to stay hydrated as much as possible, but it got to me by the end. I left early. I did not stay over the weekend like I thought I was going to. So I did leave on Friday just to get to that AC. Let me tell you, that's a luxury.
It is, and it's going to be nice for some people today as well as the heat hangs on for one more day.
Yep, another heat advisory through noon to 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to have temperatures in the mid-80s far north, mid-90s far south, and of course we are going to be feeling the heat index more like 100 degrees. So another sweaty day today. We are looking at that little light rain and cloud cover down far south off towards Milwaukee and Waukegan area. That is going to be moving out of here as we go through the next hour. Sunny across the state. It is about 63 to 77 degrees throughout the area, and we are looking at staying pretty dry for most of the day, but late tonight, we've got another system that wants to work its way through the state. Those storms start far northwest, probably around 10, 11 o'clock or so. They'll push into central areas of the state around 2 a.m., and then probably be around the Fox Valley and Lakeshore around 4 or 5 early in the morning tomorrow. Now, we are at a slight risk for damaging winds and hail with this system, so 60, 70 mile per hour gusts, power outages are definitely possible, and the highest chance for that would probably likely be Eau Claire, La Crosse, Richland Center area. It does start to fizzle out as it pushes in towards central, but Madison, Wausau still could see some stronger storms with that, and then it fizzles out definitely as it heads towards the Lakeshore tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, still mid-70s far north to mid-80s far south, but we really cool things down as we go into Wednesday, and mid-70s, much more comfortable across the state, and some dry conditions too.
All right. From the text line from Jim in Brookfield, Brittany needs to be commended for dealing with the elements and camping at the EAA and for making the live broadcasts. My old flight instructor stayed in a fully equipped motorhome and thought he had it rough. He should have spoken with Brittany.
Right?
Tom and Jackson on the text line says, glad to hear that Brittany is okay.
Thank you.
People are really concerned about you there. Let's see. From Rob in Tigerton, good morning. It is sunny and 70 degrees. Had mowing job Saturday, then went to Clintonville, had to go to the A&W for lunch with a root beer float. It was a diet root beer. He watered flowers on Tigerton's Main Street. This Saturday is my cousin Jerry's benefit. He has thyroid cancer and has been in the hospital for the last 3 weeks. I was helping my sisters getting the prices for the raffle. Let's see. Where I live, when not working, I love going for a walk or a gator ride in the woods, watching nature yesterday. I had deer at the front door of my house. Brittany, I hope you had a wonderful time at EAA. And did you ever ride on the Goodyear blimp? And he concludes by saying, I've got mowing jobs in Wittenberg today. No blimp ride, I don't believe?
No blimp ride for me. It looked a little hot in there.
It did, didn't it? And
Yeah.
now that I've seen it up close, I mean, I was like face to face with it. It was on the ground and getting ready to, I assume, take off. And I mean, like I said last week, it's just like, okay, it's just a big balloon with, basically a little box underneath,
Basically.
and hope that everything goes okay.
It was pretty funny. I was in one of the briefings for the flight show and the air show,
Mhm.
and they were like, if the blimp is in the way, let us know. And it just felt like this big block out there for everybody else. It was pretty funny.
If the blimp is in the way, okay, because you can just go and just push it aside with a good little
Right.
gust, right? Okay. Brittany, thank you so much. Glad you made it back all right and had fun.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Remember, you can sign up for our daily newsletter, UpNorthNewsWI.com. Click subscribe up in the top banner. You'll get all kinds of Wisconsin feature stories and some of the news stories that Salina Heller works on. And we'll hear about one of those stories in just a bit. But first, from Kristen, as always, there's the Dr. Kristen Lyerly Show weekends. Tell us about either last Saturdays or what you got planned for this coming Saturday.
This coming Saturday, we're talking about food and how do we save extra food and make sure that we're repurposing it and getting it to people who need it. Because haven't you ever thought, like, you go to an event and you see all this extra food that's left over and you hate to throw it away? So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. But last weekend, we spoke with Dennis Peters. He's the lead singer of the Glam Band. If you're not familiar with the Glam Band, they are an 80s hair metal tribute band. They are a blast. They're at all the county fairs. They're doing gigs all over Wisconsin in the summer. And Dennis is suffering from stage 4 prostate cancer. And like so many people in his situation, he didn't have health insurance. So we're doing a benefit in Green Bay on Thursday at the Riverside Ballroom. It's for Dennis. You get to hear Dennis's story on the Dr. Kristen Lyerly Show. You get to hear the folks who established On Stage for Cancer. It's on stage, the number 4cancer.org if you're interested in learning more and pitching in. It is a beautiful community tribute to Dennis and a way to help out somebody who has entertained and brought joy to so many people all across the state.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear about the benefit. Don't get me wrong. But if it sounds like I'm banging my head against the microphone as a metaphorical brick wall here,
Yeah.
it's that we are, just like the last segment, having this discussion about having to hold benefits for people because they didn't have proper health insurance coverage, because they're threatened with bankruptcy, which again happens in no other developed country in the world. Yes, I put a period after every one of those words because it is so unnecessary. We've been talking about this for 30 plus years, and we still have politicians blocking one of the most basic things that a free people could want, and that would be not going bankrupt because of health care and needing to rely on the charity of others. Sorry, there's my rant. I hope the benefit is fun. It's still not necessary that we have to have a country where we need them, but I hope the benefit's fun.
Thanks. I agree. It's really demoralizing. You're healthy until you're not healthy. I mean, this is a guy who was a great baseball player. He had tryouts with the pros. He's active if you've ever seen them perform. This is a guy who's all over the stage and just vibrant and beautiful and wonderful. And then boom. And it happens to so many people. Health issues like this are the number one reason that people file for bankruptcy. And and it's a lot of people.
Yeah. So again, I'm glad we're talking about the benefit and for people who, want to help out. That's a wonderful thing. It just shouldn't be the thing.
Shouldn't
The
be a
thing
thing.
we should be talking about right now is Salina Heller's T-shirt, which is pink. It has a stake on it, and it simply says "Meat Raffle."
A big piece of meat right on my shirt.
Yes. Where did you get that meat raffle shirt, Salina?
Downtown Eau Claire Incorporated. So
Oh,
this is
okay.
the organization that I used to kind of run before when I worked in economic development at the city of Eau Claire. And so now they're new fundraiser. So my charge was coming up with new fundraisers. My big one was a grand evening on the bridge where we had like a dinner on the bridge, and that still happens today with all the local businesses around that area. They started this meat raffle. So I went to their meat raffle to support downtown Eau Claire. I won a roast, pork tenderloins, pork sausage, all sorts of meat and a t-shirt that says meat raffle that Emery wants to wear on her first day of school.
I love that she's planning her first day of school. My kids are like,
Yes.
no, it's too soon.
The meat raffle T-shirt that you won at a meat raffle is anything more quintessential Wisconsin than that. So the dinner on the bridge, the Grand Avenue Bridge, that's something you helped organize, and it's still going on to this day. And
Yes.
how great a feeling is that? Because I played the same role with literacy volunteers and their Scrabble Bee. And
yes,
this
Scrabble
goes way back when I was helping out with literacy volunteers of the Chippewa Valley, and going, we need a fundraiser. We need a fundraiser. And I was on this committee where we came up with, and I suggested doing some kind of a Scrabble Bee, or it was more of a variation of it rather than, say, a Scrabble tournament. And boy, that first year we barely broke even. And now when I see that it's still going on after all these years and how much money it's raising, it just feels so good to know that you created that kind of stuff. Kristen, I know you take part in, like, there's a talent show that you do in Northeast Wisconsin every year, and probably other activities as well, knowing you.
It's the same people who do the On Stage for Cancer benefit every year. It's called Doctors in Recital. Doctors and healthcare providers who are musically inclined put on a beautiful show at the Widener Center in Green Bay, and we raise money for a number of different local charities. And every year it's bigger, it's better, and we pull more people in, and it's a blast.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's never easy coming up with a first event. Like I was doing some work for Hope Village here in Chippewa Falls, and they've come up with this thing called a quarter auction. And they've since taken it and run with it. And again, it's done really well. I could not explain a quarter auction to you right now at gunpoint if you had to, but other people grabbed the idea and went with it. And that's a great thing. And Salina, there's so many just in the Chippewa Valley alone that you have covered over the years. That, again, there's always going to be a need for fundraisers. Back to my rant earlier, that's just a particular kind of fundraiser. But for all kinds of nonprofits and the good work they do, it's such a great way to fill the calendar with all these fun events.
Oh my gosh, there's so many events, and I used to work on the weekend. So every weekend, I think I went to every sort of run and race and every fundraising event, and they're becoming more and more vital to all of these organizations. And it's just, you have to be creative in coming up with a lot of these things, because it's things that haven't been done before. So when you come up with something good, so this one I just came up with at a conference, you had to come up with some idea that you think would be good for your town. And I had to draw this out, and I didn't ever think it would come to fruition, but lo and behold, it did. And it's still going strong all these years later. So it's just so those unique things, like Scrabble Bee is so popular. But this dinner on the bridge, you just sit out amongst the fresh air, and you have a nice dinner, and it's just a unique experience.
That's great. From Jan in Oak Creek on the text line, Pat, you just took the words right out of my mouth about people having to have raffles and charity events to pay for their medical care. I'm reminded every time I see a coffee can at a checkout counter or a message on the bulletin board that says someone needs money for their cancer or their chronic disease. It's just wrong for our country with its wealth not to give universal health care, Medicare for all, to every citizen. Health care is a right. Thank you for your comments. It needs to be heard every day. And Jan, I do have that same visceral reaction every time I see a community bulletin board with another one of these flyers on there, that it shouldn't have to be. But there are things about healthcare that Kristen and I talked about last hour that shouldn't have to be a thing, but they're still a thing. And Salina is going to carry that over into our next segment here in talking about abortion care, total reproductive care that saves lives. And we'll hear Salina's report on that coming up. First, from the heart of America's Up North, live from Lake Wissota. Thank you for making this the place to spend part of your Monday mornings. Powered by UpNorthNews on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
back at 7:22 on a Monday morning, July 28th, with Salina Heller from Up North News and Dr. Kristen Lyerly as well, on a week where the Wisconsin State Fair gets going on Thursday. Kristen, did you say you were going to try to make a run down to it?
Yes, because of the food. I love the food.
Always good. Always good. Can't
Jackson
miss that.
County Fair is this weekend too.
The Jackson County Fair is this weekend? Is there
Yes,
going to be the
I was there.
Combine Demolition Derby?
Absolutely.
Oh,
A
my
highlight.
goodness. Oh. If you have not heard Celine talk about this before, go to UpNorthNews.wi.com and just search for the word combine, and I'm sure you'll come up with it. The Combine Demolition Derby, which is just it's as successful as it is hilarious. The people that go out into fields and buy junked up combines and fix them up to run one more time. And
Or in some cases, they have run a lot of derbies with them.
just
Mhm.
I just was so flabbergasted the first time you wrote your first story about this. I'm like, are you punking me? Is this really a thing? Like, no, it really is a thing here.
Oh,
Can
it's
I interrupt Combine Chat to just tell you that a hunk, fat Elvis donut ice cream sandwich is being featured this year at the Wisconsin State Fair.
Kristen's still back on the State Fair food over here.
we gotta rewind. What?
So, folks, if you haven't made your weekend plans yet, you've got two things to do. You've got to go to the Jackson County Fair. When's the Combine Demo Derby?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. And so do your Wisconsin State Fair on Friday or Saturday. And then where's the Jackson County Fairgrounds?
Black River Falls.
Black
Just,
River Falls. There you go.
before.
Easy peasy. All right, so make those trips this weekend. All right, in sports, the Brewers took one out of the three-game series with Miami, still remain tied for the top of the National League Central Division with the Chicago Cubs after winning over Miami 3-2 by Blake Perkins, singling home the winning run in the bottom of the ninth. Jackson Churio now has a 20-game hitting streak going on. And the Brewers now get set to take on the Cubs tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday afternoon at American Family Field. Coverage begins at 6:05 this evening on several civic media stations all across Wisconsin. All right, let's give a listen first to a report that Salina did for Up North News on abortion care. Do you want to set up the piece really briefly, Salina?
Sure. Megan is from La Crosse County. She is 41. She loves volunteering and has rescue dogs and all sorts of things. And now legislative Democrats, you'll hear from Senator Calderoys of Madison in this piece. They're behind a bill to protect Wisconsinites like Megan, whose access to reproductive health care saved her life. So here is Megan.
I am alive today because abortion saved my life.
This is Megan. She lives in western Wisconsin and likes to go fishing and hunting. She enjoys gardening and she loves her rescue dogs. About 10 years ago, she and her then husband wanted to have kids. She became pregnant, but soon after, she started having intense abdominal pains.
You know, my doctor saw the fetus in the uterus. They're like, you're fine. It's probably just a cyst or whatever over in that ovary.
But Megan wasn't fine, and she found out why a few months later while at an ultrasound appointment.
As I'm in my going back to the exam room, I have another spell. So I had probably 4 different spells of where I actually was going into shock. I was rupturing and internally bleeding and going into shock.
Megan was rushed into emergency surgery where doctors found a rare and dangerous heterotopic pregnancy, which means there was one embryo in the uterus and the other outside of it. Megan's doctors had to remove the pregnancies, and it's for scary situations like Megan's that state senators like Calderoys have introduced the Abortion Rights Restoration Act.
Number one, it puts into state statute that you and I all have a right to bodily autonomy. Number two, it repeals that horrible 1849 law that bans virtually all abortion. And number three, it repeals a lot of the Walker-era restrictions that made abortion so difficult for people to get.
This is just healthcare. This is a procedure that saves people's lives. And the only person that should be able to make that decision is the person going through it with their provider. I didn't have the time to wait for somebody to decide that I was dying enough.
All right, so there is Salina's report from a little earlier today. And Kristen, you might be hearing that for the first time, but wanted to get your reaction to one of how many cases you hear, just like Salina's report.
Hey, I'd like to start just by saying Megan is an incredibly courageous woman to share her story. And also to invite our listeners to consider, have you ever heard of a heterotopic pregnancy? Because it happens. One pregnancy in the uterus, one pregnancy outside of the uterus where it can't survive. These are the types of situations that people are unaware of that we need to treat in order to save people's lives. And when there are abortion bans in place, it prevents us from taking care of our patients.
And Salina, this is not the first person you've talked to, again, for whom abortion care was medically necessary, not like some kind of a convenient choice, some kind of a luxury or whatever it is that politicians like to say.
No, absolutely not. I've talked to a lot over the course of the last few years. And for Megan, she saw a post on our Facebook page and she commented on it. And that's how I found Megan. And she was very she wanted to tell her story and she never had. And so, Kristen, this kind of goes along with your storytellers. Like, she thought about it. She wanted to get her story out. And she was like, and you reached out to me and I got to tell my story. And so now she's a little more wanting to kind of get her story out there and tell how important it is. And I never heard of heterotopic pregnancies. I had to look it up. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Well, and think about it. 1 in 4 women in this country have an abortion. So there are a lot of stories floating around out there, but we don't hear those stories because they're emotionally charged. They're hard to tell. They're societally not acceptable to tell. So a lot of people keep those secrets even from the people that they are closest to. So to be able to come out and tell a story like this is, like I said, it is incredibly courageous.
As Tony writes on YouTube, dying enough is a phrase that shouldn't exist, especially to determine whether you get medical care or not. Salina Heller, thank you so much for your report. Have a good start to the day. Dr. Lyerly, have a great start to the week. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Sounds good. I'll give a full report from training camp.
Oh, that's right. Go enjoy. All right. Coming up after the Midwest Farm Report, we'll hear from Senator Tammy Baldwin about funds to make sure that we can test for clean drinking water across rural Wisconsin. That's next on the Civic Media Radio Network. Nice to have you back on this Monday morning. It is July 28th, 7:35 right now, all across the Civic Media Radio Network. Let's turn our attention now to Senator Tammy Baldwin. We spoke to her late last week, right after Governor Tony Evers had made his announcement that he would not be running for a third term. And that was not the point of the original interview. It was for this segment right here, talking about a new bill that she has introduced along with Maine Republican Susan Collins about keeping rural drinking water safe. Wisconsin, as you know, continues to identify new sources of contaminated water and soil from industrial chemicals like PFAS and other sources. But the thing about the smaller communities is they lack the resources to conduct adequate testing to identify contaminated water and engage in, the mitigation that's necessary to remove the contaminant. And again, make sure that, unlike, say, the folks on French Island near La Crosse, you're not still trucking in bottled water for years and years. And so I started by asking Senator Tammy Baldwin about the bill that she had just introduced with Senator Collins to do just that, help rural communities ensure that they have clean drinking water.
Yeah, so certainly you can't be from Wisconsin and not be about water. We're on two Great Lakes. We have the mighty Mississippi defining most of our West Coast, and we have so many inland rivers and lakes, and this incredible groundwater. But we've also have our water challenges, and I'm not going to go into all of them because this is a fairly focused bill, but we have to do our part to make sure that our drinking water is safe and clean. And when you have a municipal water utility, you can do that with filtration, et cetera. But a lot of Wisconsinites rely on private wells for their water. And the testing to make sure that that water is contaminant free, that water is clean and safe is really expensive. And it means that a lot of people don't do it on a regular basis. And then if you do find that there are contaminants, it's also expensive to add mitigation steps and filtration. So the healthy H2O water is focused on communities that are rural, where there's a lot of folks who are reliant on private wells, to get grants to do that testing. And if there are issues found, whether that's PFAS or other issues with the water, there's a follow-on grant to be able to help make filtration at the source more affordable. And oftentimes uh, rural residents are left behind in our discussions about clean water and safe drinking water. And this is an effort squarely focused on our rural residents.
And especially when you consider that, as you note in your release, the state has 714 communities with populations under 10,000. This program would apply to them. Now, in more normal times, I would say that sounds like a bipartisan slam dunk. But given the width and the breadth of cuts that rural lawmakers and other folks on the Republican side of the aisle are willing to embrace, can we even try to speculate about the success of a package like this in this current Congress?
Well, I have to say that, first of all, the fact that this legislation starts out as bipartisan legislation, that it is brought forward by two senior members of the Appropriations Committee, and that almost all of my colleagues in the Senate, Democrat or Republican, have rural areas of their states that they represent. So I think that there's a dynamic here that would say that we can move this forward, especially in the Senate, um, because we all have. I think we all share an interest of having safe drinking water for our constituents, and most of us have large rural areas in our states.
And on top of that, there is just a laundry list here, dozens of water quality associations and other groups that would back this as well. So it is certainly something that we can continue to follow and look at the measure of success it will have and what it will do for the health of water in our rural communities. So finally, we are heading into, or pretty much into, the August recess for Congress right now. So this was one of the announcements that you wanted to make before Congress takes a break. Congress overall seems to be consumed with a rather tawdry matter, and then the distractions that come with it. You have everybody from Senator Ron Johnson to Congressman Derek Van Orden wanting to talk about the 2016 Russia investigation and former President Obama, or basically anything else.
Right.
Is the recess going to provide some kind of a cooling off period, or do you feel that when Congress comes back, there will be Republicans still facing a rather skeptical public about the way that they have handled things over these past few weeks and months?
Yeah, so I mean, the last few weeks and months have made it clear that Republicans are for billionaires over families, and Democrats are for families over billionaires. The budget reconciliation measure that was passed a few weeks back was all about cutting health care and nutrition assistance from those who are most vulnerable. Why? In order to pay for tax cuts for billionaires and profitable corporations. It is, I've never seen a clearer example of whose side you're on. And even the tawdry affair that we're talking about, the optics of President Trump protecting a billionaire pedophile, it's just, it's just sort of beyond words in my mind. But look, over the August recess, it's going to be really important to me to travel the state and bring home the points about the jeopardy that healthcare and people's healthcare is under because of that massive budget reconciliation bill. We have several hospitals in rural areas of the state that may be at risk of closing. Certainly, that will be true of skilled nursing facilities because of Medicaid cuts that will be implemented. People are going to lose their private health insurance that they get through the Affordable Care Act because of the end of premium subsidies that help people afford the health insurance. And we need to highlight the damage, because that's the only way we're going to ever successfully fight back, is by continuing to talk about the effects and reminding people that Trump and Republicans are fighting for the billionaires, and we're fighting for people to have health care and to be able to afford their health care, their medications, their groceries, their energy bills, their housing. That's what we're about.
I know that I'm not going out on a limb saying that this might be one of the busiest recesses that Congress has had for a while, but I also know that you and others try to take some time to at least get a little bit of downtime. I hope you get a chance to do that. Before you did, thanks for spending a few moments with us to talk to us about all the news of the day. Thank you again, Senator Tammy Baldwin.
Thank you.
Again, that was Senator Tammy Baldwin. We initially got her reaction to Governor Evers not running, and then to her new package on, again, what should be a bipartisan matter, is making sure that rural communities can test for contaminated drinking water. Who's against that? No idea. Tell you about a couple of newsletters that we put out here. There's our weekday one that you can sign up for at UpNorthNewsWI.com. And in today's newsletter, a judge has ruled in Dane County that the father of the teen who opened fire at a Madison school last December, the father will stand trial for allowing her access to the guns used in the deadly attack. Also in today's newsletter, food drives are being organized to call attention to the cuts in SNAP nutrition benefits to lower income families. And in our weekend newsletter, Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, sign up for it at UpNorthNewsWI.com. We also have our question of the week, and it goes like this. Crypto, what do you think of it? Is it the future? Is it a maybe, but you need to learn a little bit more about it? Or is it a scam? You just don't like it, or you need to know more first. Can we protect consumers and businesses and, frankly, the economy with the right amount of regulations around cryptocurrency? Or does it only work if it's a Wild West mentality and exposes people to scams? We talked about this late last week with two legislators working on a bill about these kinds of guidelines around crypto. But we want to know, what do you think of cryptocurrency right now? And I think a lot of us, not all of us, but I think a lot of us have that one person in their lives who is an unabashed crypto pusher. You know, they can't talk about it enough, and how it is totally the way that all money is going, that it's all going to be digital in this fashion. Are they right? Are they, on the cutting edge here? Or again, are they just a little too much caught up in the moment to understand the dangers of crypto? I will say, for the initial 24 hours now that this question has been out, the answer is overwhelmingly coming from people who believe it's a scam or they're skeptical of it. That is not necessarily a representative sample of the population, but those are the people who are motivated to answer a question like this. But I'm quite certain if I dive back into the inbox, I'm going to find some people going, now you just need to learn more. You just need to pay attention. And here's why it's safe, or here's why it can be properly protected. And I'm willing to keep an open mind on that, but I want to know what your thoughts are right now. Let's see. I've got Tony here on YouTube saying, I've dabbled in crypto, but I'm not all in on it. So again, maybe you're among the people who are in that way of thinking. So let us know. You can sign up for the newsletter, UpNorthNewsWI.com. Looking ahead to the lineup here on Civic Media, of course, we've got Matt Nair on air coming up after this program, airing from 9 to 11 this morning. Todd Alba from 2 to 4. And then Maggie Dawn from 4 to 6 today. Matt Rothschild will be on right off the top at 4 o'clock discussing Wisconsin politics. And right after 5 o'clock, Lori Richards, the CEO of Miller Communications, we'll be talking to Maggie Dawn. Again, that's from 4 until 6. Lori Richards at 5, Matt Rothschild at 4. And speaking of Matt, he does have a podcast that you'll find over at the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us. It's called Wisconsin Forward, and it is a weekly dive into a topic that surrounds a current political problem in the state, a little background on how we got to where we are today, what some folks are working on now for a possible path forward. It's a uniquely Wisconsin take on the big issues that might be preventing progress and the people who have the ideas to move us forward. You can subscribe and download to Wisconsin Forward on Spotify, Apple, or the Civic Media website. The same place, ever so coincidentally, where you can subscribe to this program as well as a podcast. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate very much seeing the growing number of followers who, maybe came in halfway through that Tammy Baldwin interview and wanted to know what's going on with that. Now, you can maybe hear a best of program here and there, but why wait when it can be all yours on demand by subscribing over at Spotify or Apple and pod this program. A local update is coming next for some of you. Others will be talking to Jimmy Kuska here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
No, Parker, it's not that one either. Parker's playing bumper music roulette here because I told him that one particular bumper tune became like an earworm for me overnight. Just on a loop. Could not get it out of my head. And I'm sure it's going to trigger me whenever it comes up. But it wasn't that one either. Still haven't heard it yet today. Jimmy Kuska is here, Civic Media Sports Director, to tell us about some of the things that he's working on, following. And he tells me there was no 5 a.m. football practice today. Jimmy, you sloughing off or what?
I wanted to talk about the earworm for a second. I used to produce on the Badger Sports Network, and if an ABBA song came up in rotation, you would hear about it from Matt LePay for probably the next half an hour. ABBA was banned from the bumper rotation from Badger Sports.
See, the things that you learn behind the scenes, you don't expect to learn. You didn't put Matt LePay and songs from ABBA in that. I didn't.
Yeah. So whatever came up, you would get. You would definitely, as a producer, you would hear about it
because he didn't like them. Or he was a big fan.
Between him and Mike Lucas, it would just end up turning into like off the air, just like, what are you doing back there?
Oh, not fans.
No.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyway, we're totally slacking as football coaches in Wisconsin this week. This is the mandated week where you can't have coaching contact for football. Other sports have theirs that starts at the end of the month. Basically, for the first week before you start practice. In any fall sport, there's no coaching contact in the summer. So for high school coaches in football, there is a very healthy thread of where those coaches are on vacation this week. For myself, I am staying right here at basketball. I'm too boring to go on vacation. But it is a nice week to kind of catch your breath, reset, and then get ready for some teams what could be a 4-month-long season. So this is kind of that chance to catch your breath ahead of all of that.
Well, sure, and for the kids as well, that their families, they know that there is a finite week there that they will not miss any practice if they take a break, and so hopefully they're all having a good time as well before they have to go get their school supplies and get set for another school year.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think really having these built-in weeks, because the other week is the week of July 4th. You have these built-in weeks where you can focus on things that aren't sports. I think youth sports burnout is a real big deal, especially for the kids that are specializing in things. That you need to have time built in. Rest is just as important as training, really, because how do you recover from all the work you're doing and develop as a kid? You need to have rest periods. So I'm fine with it. I know there are probably some coaches that wish they could practice every day of the summer, but having this weekend where you can, hydrate, get yourself, you're mentally ready for what's coming up. That's the thing. And, the other thing too, for everybody listening, hey, high school football, we kick off the season 3 weeks from Friday, right? That's the first game. Like it's go time right now for a lot of teams. So.
Wow. Okay. as far as what you did over the weekend, though, of course, you didn't escape sports altogether, and you and Parker were spending some time with the Madison Nightmares softball team.
That's right. For us, it was kind of a neat thing. Our youth baseball and softball programs every year go out to either a Mallards game or a Nightmares game. The Nightmares have only been around a couple of years, but one of the players for the Nightmares is actually from Boscobel, and she plays at Mississippi State, and that's Greta Grassel, who very, very decorated player in high school, but just finished up her first year at Mississippi State in the SEC. So there are quite a few people cheering for her in the doubleheader on Saturday with the fireworks afterwards. I tell you, having the Northwoods League, not just for baseball, but now for softball in Wisconsin, that is for sports fans a tremendous value in entertainment. It is really nice. It's like having our own total minor league system all across the state, and virtually every college sized town in the state. You have minor league baseball entertainment everywhere, which is tremendous. I know here at our network at Civic Media, we actually have broadcast rights to one of those teams in Wisconsin Rapids. So if you live anywhere close to a city in Wisconsin, there's some pretty good baseball happening or softball happening right in your backyard.
Yeah. Now the Northwoods League, I remember when it first started for baseball, it was described as, collegiate level baseball with wooden bats, which differentiated itself from other baseball leagues. In terms of the Northwoods League for softball, is that also a wooden bat league for softball, or is softball always metal bats?
Yeah, softball is metal bats, but
Okay.
it's still very high level. Looking at just the rosters and seeing the people coming up to bat, you've got every top program represented. Teams you just watch at the College World Series in softball, you see all these same athletes all over the place. But yeah, having baseball and softball at this very high level with a lot of them ending up professionally, playing professionally.
Mhm.
It's such a neat experience for people to have this kind of access to really future stars in baseball and softball.
I'm looking at the Northwoods League standings here, and it shows shows 5 teams. The Wausau Ignite with a record of 12-27 at the bottom. Then the La Crosse Steam. Then the Mankato Habaneros. The Minot Honeybees. And then your first place, Madison Nightmares, with a record of 31 wins and only 6 losses. And so, Parker, for as much as you have to work those games, at least you've got more wins than losses to cover.
They're very good, and it's actually like insane how much better they are this year compared to last year. They've got so much more pop, and they're so much more consistent. It's been really fun to watch them this year. I think they've got a new head coach that's out of Oklahoma, so they're again one of those softball powerhouses in college.
Yeah, and Tony writing on YouTube, love the Northwoods League, need a team in Ashland. And I don't doubt that it's only going to continue to grow, Jimmy.
Yeah, softball's already adding teams. Baseball has expanded quite a ways, crossing a couple of time zones. There's a lot of teams all the way from the Dakotas all the way to Indiana and Michigan. Obviously, a lot of teams right here in Wisconsin, but there are a lot of baseball teams. But softball is also expanding. That sport continues to grow. It is, again, for sports fans, it's a lot of entertainment value for your buck, just like high school sports. It doesn't cost a whole lot. You can go have a fantastic time at any of these things.
Where else can you get a beer zip-lined into you but Warner Park?
Okay, I have to go learn more about that now during the news break. Jimmy Kuska, thank you so much for the little update. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, talk to you Wednesday.
All right, appreciate it. Coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, we will be talking to author Laura Bird. Before that, John and Gordy from our Civic Media station in Madison, and Jane Matnair, of course, will be previewing the shows that she'll be having this week, plus an updated forecast from meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Remember, you can follow my team all day at UpNorthNewsWI.com and right here mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.